Wyron, he reviewed some games for the league, the Massachusetts league I participated in almost a year ago. And the first thing he said on the recording, you can look it up on YouTube, and he's like, Duckless Quackman. That's a name.
And that's
That's my claim to fame in the Go community.
yeah, it's awesome. That's when they put you on the map.
There you go.
And we're gonna continue putting you on the map with this.
Yeah.
All right. So, before I just go into everything, can you tell me like how you felt about the game? Like, was there anything interesting that you thought of it, or?
It happened a couple days ago. I think first, if I remember correctly, it was close enough to make me ashamed that I didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I felt like I had been making improvements, but I was at the like threshold of a plateau, and I wanted to like switch things around.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, there was a lot of mistakes on both ends, of course. I mean, even in my games, as you see when I play live, there's a lot of mistakes even at my level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, we can work on these, and I pointed them out and put little fun phrases for them, and hopefully, we'll you know, tighten these up. So let's look at the first thing. Let's see. So black approaches, white plays low, and then you played this 3 space knights jump. So, or sorry, 2 space knights jump. Normally in this case, we would want to make 3 spaces. Because what happens is once white kicks us, right, which happens in the game, is this efficient or inefficient?
That's not Joseki. That's inefficient.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say Joseki or not, but how many spaces is this, right?
That's two.
And how many do we usually want when we have a 2 space wall?
Five.
No, no, no.
Oh, sorry. Three.
Three.
Five intersections, three spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we play further away, and let's say white was to kick you, well, now you're in the perfect place. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So normally this is nice. The other thing you might be fearing is this, but you can still fully stay connected, right? White's going to have some type of problem here. And depending on what does, you can actually, if you care more about just taking this territory, then this is a really nice solid seal, right? White can't play anything else. Or you could play here and then play here. Depends. If you play this and white comes out more, then you have to keep blocking. But the idea is that your stones will stay strong and connected, even if white does an invasion in here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be afraid about playing a little further away. These 3 extra spaces makes the difference between the two. Because now white can make you inefficient. It's a small mistake, but one I wanted to cover. It's important to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this was fun. Nowadays, have we ever discussed this? Like even in our past reviews? Um,
If we did, I forgot.
So this is the older style Joseki, right? Nowadays, you usually see this one.
Mm-hmm.
But when they play this old one, this actually gives you a good opportunity to play somewhere else. If you respond in the original manner, right? This is the original Joseki that we used for a very long time before the computers. This gives white, the ability to settle, and I guess you can move on, right? But if you were to, let's say, take another move, let's say you played something like this, and then white took it, does this stone look like it's in a good position?
No,
Well, where would it rather be? If I took this off, where would you rather it be?
I don't know.
Here, right?
Yes.
C16.
Yeah.
This looks
Right.
much better, right, than this one. My mouse is acting a little funny. This one here, right? Like this looks awkward. This looks correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's this idea that this isn't efficient, right? It's like if you had a black stone here and you played here and then white didn't play this, white played this. This looks stupid, right? And so that's why when white plays this now, you actually have you're encouraged to Tanuki. You're encouraged to play somewhere else. Because if he takes the time to play this, well, one, you couldn't just fix yourself, so you're fine already. And this exchange of, A and B already looks good for black. And you got to move on the outside. And two, if you don't want to respond here, right, you can actually just take another move or something. And even if white clamps down on you, you're fine. You can make a dog face shape, which is very strong. This will give you the ability to run out and probably counterattack this white stone. Does
Mhm.
does this make sense?
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I just play this anyway because I don't want to deal with the hassle. Sometimes I don't. If I can really get like another like 20, 30 points, then I will just leave that and let him play it. I'll defend, he'll defend, and then I'll take my, whatever points I got, right?
Mhm.
So my point is if you want to try something new, and this is, what all the higher level players are doing, is when somebody plays this older style move, you don't have to answer here. You can take advantage of something much bigger. Does that
Okay.
makes Yeah. I,
And
I hope
this,
that makes sense.
okay, that does. I've never thought of that before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had to be taught this because when I was growing up, I started playing in 2005. This was it, man. This was it. And this was happening, right? This is you get a corner and you get the next move. But yeah, AI really changed things after 2016. And that's why this is more efficient than this one because this one black can ignore. There's no pressure. Black doesn't care if he takes a corner in bad shape, right? Like who cares if he takes this bad shape corner? Um, but this one we have to answer because it's a physical touching the stone, and then you know the deal. But I'll leave it at
Right.
that. So that's definitely a modern Joseki versus old Joseki. You can play either way. In fact, Colossus always says, um, actually, I don't know. He says to what does he say? He says not to play this move as a beginner. So I guess I don't know what he says about this one. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But just know that yeah, this is bad shape, and so you can Tanuki. All right. So this was White's first major mistake. So hey, have you ever heard the term "hit the head of two stones"?
Yes.
This is so important for both players to understand, and it's very a basic fundamental. Um, the idea is that if White plays what White did, now, well, let me just start. Like when White played here and you played here, and White plays here, who's ahead in the race right now?
What?
Right, that's very important to understand. Being in front of your opponent is like one of the best things you can do in Go. It's such a strive and struggle to be in front in running battles. So, in essence, White already has a good advantage. But when White doesn't play here, and let's say Black plays this, who's ahead of the race now?
Black.
Very, very simple concept, right? It's very easy to understand. But now you can see that white is very damaged, right? White has lots of problems. If white submits like this, you could even double Hane, and you can see that white's like kind of turning into itself, right? This looks like awful, right? Like compare what it could have been for white, right? Even if it just simply went like this, look at the difference of potential, right? Like white's ahead in the race and took the lead, but
Hmm.
once black gets the lead, white just crumbles into itself. All that potential is gone, and although white's here, so black doesn't have the potential to take this. You've already done a good job of crumpling his, right?
Hmm.
So this is very important. You should have played this too as well, and even if you play something like this, you can actually just kill him. So there's no fear of this cut.
I
Using
think my instincts did a lot of the moving here, and I'm afraid of those cross cuts. So it's probably
Yeah,
why it didn't occur to me to do that.
yeah, you can't especially when you're gonna win. You can't be afraid of the cross cuts. If like even if you played the wrong direction like this, right? Like if you just this is probably the easiest way to play, right? Because you just instantly get a capture. But even if you played the wrong direction and he fixes, you actually can start making some. to mess down here, right?
Why is that the wrong direction?
This one, because I don't think you can cleanly get this, right? There's a weakness here. And so you might have to like live or something like this. Maybe there's a better one, like maybe playing this would help your corner out more, which it would. But then you can see that these two stones are cut off, and so now you kind of have a weak group in the middle. You get to use them, but and they probably won't die, and you might even be able to use the influence because white looks like it's in dumb shape. But if you just wanted to, like, I'll tell you, this is a more complicated game, if that makes sense, right?
Hmm.
You have a lot more to think about. But if you wanted to just play simple, I'm a simple man. I try and keep things simple. You can just capture the stone and be happy, right? If he plays here, then you're gonna have this capture. If he plays down, you're still gonna have this capture. And it's very simple that you got a full corner and you're out, right? And white got crumpled in a bit. And white
Hmm.
has a weakness at D2, right? We can hit the head and the butt of the two stones. But the most fundamental and core concept that you have to understand that should help you in like all of your rest of your games is that when you're in a running battle, you need to stay ahead. And if white gives you the chance to do that, take it. Right? This is such a strong, powerful move, hitting the head of two stones. That's why it's such a famous like proverb. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Let's see. So, yeah, hit the head of two stones. Or you could jump to settle. But this is another way to go about it. It just gives white like a better position, although it is a little inefficient. All the stones are low, and this is too close to his wall. This was just a really bad move in general. This move here.
Right.
So let's see. So you did play this, which was okay, but these would have been a bit better. That's all I can say. But this is okay. I think this is fine. Black once again, white made a big mistake because black now can split in one move. So this was fantastic. Did you feel good when you got this?
Probably.
Probably. I know it's been a few days. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but this is fantastic. Like, this is why you were winning the game for a long time, right? Just this, almost just this alone. And it's because you sealed your opponent in, and now he has a weak group that you get to attack, right? So this is great. So white really made the mistake by allowing you to split, and you did a good job of fixing that. So your direction was definitely correct, but you could have gone further. One thing you should remember is when you have a big wall, the bigger it is, the further you can go out. So just this one extra movement would get you more territory, and it's still putting pressure on these two stones. Another thing you could do, and this is kind of end game, but because it affects the whole life of this group, you could kind of play this and take this in Sente. Maybe somebody stronger than me might argue with that, but the idea is if he like plays this, then he's gonna have to live, right? He's gonna have to make some type of living shape, and I can't. I don't think he's alive, right? He's not alive. If he
Hmm.
plays this, you break the eye. If he plays this, you break the eye, right? Yeah, and then once you fill in these liberties, he's Atari'd, so he's dead. So to me, this move looks like it affects the life of the whole group. So white should answer, and then this gives you your Sente to play what you need to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can play your Sente moves. So this was on my eye, and this was the computer's correction. It said you can play further away, and it makes sense because you're very strong. Still, though, you had the right direction. I'm assuming your plan was to attack this to build this. Is that right?
Uh, Based on how I'm feeling right now, I probably would have just done exactly what I did before, but with the four stones closer to the top of the board, just like extend out a bunch.
These four stones?
Yeah, I would have probably played a stone right there on the start point at K.
No, no, no. What you did was definitely much more correct. And then what happens is in the game, like once you played this, you've created a weak group, and that weak group should be the focus of your game, especially since it affects your weak group, right? So
Mhm.
these two groups are conflicting, and it's going to be a problem. Hey, good morning, Chibi J and Equal Gods. Thanks for watching early. I didn't market this one, but of course I'm hanging out with Duckless Quackman or Aaron.
Hi,
Um,
everybody.
and so we're doing a teaching game right now. Um, so yes, it's still a good direction though, and good idea. Like I think you're just off the mark by one stone, but it's still really good. Let's see. Oh, but yeah, universal concept you always want to keep in mind is that you can move further out when you have a big wall. Like if you have a large wall, then you can move out farther. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Claim more, right? You want to get more.
Right.
Once again, an excellent move. You're showing that you've really improved. Because this move pushes white into your thickness. Have you ever heard that before?
From you several times. I'm pretty sure I thought of that when
Yeah,
I did that move.
that's awesome. Yeah, so for the audience, right? Like I haven't given you a lesson since maybe March or February, right? So that's awesome that you still remember my teaching. That's kind of the greatest gift of all, right? If your student does what he teaches you, then that's the best you can give to your teacher, right? But yeah, once you did an awesome job. Like you have two options, right? This is very inefficient, right? This looks silly. You're not making a lot of points. It looks silly. But this move over here is awesome. It's pushing him into your biggest strength. And this is where it's okay, but it probably would have been better to attack from the top. Um, if he tries to run out, you'll always be able to, try and catch him, because you have all this strength, and he's not making any eyes. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So this Tetsuji, known as the elephant, well, it's known as the diagonal jump. I call it the elephant jump because most people call this the elephant eye, right? Poking the elephant eye. So I mix the names up. So I call it the elephant jump. But this is a really nice technique to know when you have strength on both sides.
Mhm.
Either way, yeah, you could have attacked it from the outside more, because it's very difficult for him to make eyes here, right? He's gonna have to spend a lot of moves to make eyes here, and it's only gonna go down to one. So usually it's better to surround from the outside first before you go for the inside move.
Okay.
It's just a tip. Like this move. This move was seems to me very unnecessary, right? So like if you played something like this or this, like if you can't find this technique, right, then this is just as good in my opinion, right? Um, but yeah, you needed to attack from the outside, and he needed to run out. Like for him to come back here is crazy to me because if Black just gets one more move, like even if Black gets something like this, right, you can see White's gonna struggle.
Mhm.
So, like, does White even have an eye here? Because if he blocks this way, then you kill him, right? And if he blocks this way, you connect under. So White doesn't even have one eye for this group, and it's fully
Mhm.
surrounded. Um, so let's see what happened. So this is just a small move. I don't like some of these were grand concepts, right? Like hitting the head of two stones, staying ahead of your opponent, pushing your opponent into your thickness. These are the grand concepts that are going to help you every game. This is more of a small concept. This is what's considered bad shape here. You actually got a good result here, so you could argue with me on this, but um, but
I won't.
but if you were to, let's say, threaten this corner first, right, which is like leaning on another group, it's making noise in the south to attack in the north. That's the kind of the proverb there. You could lean on this group and then come back and fix this with a nice diagonal. So, like, if he was to take this stone, you can see that now he's completely split off. Do I expect you to, come up with these? Not yet, but very soon I think you'll start using leaning attacks if you haven't already. I don't know if I saw it in this game. Do you understand the concept of a leaning attack?
Only so much as you have explained in the last 1 minute.
Okay. So the idea is if you a lot of times if you attack something directly, they tend to get stronger, right? Same with something like this. White would be able to connect and get stronger, right? So when you attack things, they generally get stronger. That's my point, right? Whenever you have something like this, well, where's black gonna go next, right? Black's gonna counterattack. You have two stones. White touched you, and now black's gonna get stronger, right? Black's gonna either fight back or get stronger. So the concept of this proverb is very important to understand. The idea is that if there's something you want to kill, then you can, and there's weak groups around, then you can use those weaknesses to get stronger. Right now, if you just play this, white has options to save itself. But if you play this, white, if white saves itself now, then you're going to just take this full corner, right? And this would be an amazing profit for black. So white should respond, right? And so this is what this lean is, right? The leaning attack. You essentially attacking a weak group, and then when they respond, you've become stronger because of it. Even though this doesn't look strong, right? Because it gets killed. That's what sets off this amazing result here, right? Does that make some semblance of a sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna have to throw a lot of games before that one lands, though.
I understand. Another quick example to give you is like this two space jump here, right? So let's say you want to attack this white group, but if you attack directly, like if you push in the wrong direction, white is going to be able to come out, right? And then white will like come and maybe like this is not the perfect example, but maybe white will like be able to connect to his friends, right? If you push from the wrong way. So, what you can do is lean on this group to make strength to attack this group. You can see how far these are, and I'm sure you're mainly used to using local tactics, right? You're always thinking locally, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
move. So this will hopefully expand your vision of the whole board. So the idea is that if you want to kill this group, you'll want to get strength, right? And so if we play something like this, which if white ignores it, then you'll be able to cut through him like ribbons, and now this group becomes weak and this becomes weak. So he's gonna have to answer, right? He's gonna have to make a move. Well, now you could play this, and if he plays this, let's say you play this. So now you can see what you accomplished here, right? Let's even just go further. If he takes a stone, you can play something like this. And yeah, it's giving him a lot of points, but not really because black's here. But what have you accomplished by leaning on this group? Do you see it?
Created a lot of strength towards the center.
Exactly. And now once again, this isn't the best attack. This is for example purposes. But you've leaned on this group to make strength, which now helps you attack this. So you can take that same proverb, just change the directions. We made noise in the west to attack in the north, right? I think this is part of Sun Tzu's or Art of War, right? Like if
Sun
you,
Tzu.
yeah, Sun Tzu. If you make noise in one area, then you can flank the other, right? That's kind of how it works. And so, yeah, it's a very high level concept, but it's super cool, and it really changes your view of the game, um, and makes you a better attacker. Right, this makes you better at setting up traps. Like this is for modern terms, big brain trap. Right, the kids always talk about being big brained.
That's
So.
right.
So this is just a very intelligent way of setting up traps for this. It's very cool, very very cool. All right, so that was a long tangent for a very small portion of the review, but very important concept. So yeah, this was a little inefficient. The normal shape would be something like this, and the computer then says, "Hey, this is super important. Why aren't you playing here in the first place?" And then you can play this, which then, as I showed you, just kind of completely just traps this, right? Like because even if white, let's say you responded and white took, well now it's fully trapped and dead, right? So
Mm-hmm.
That's mainly it. This would have been better shape. This one only just helps white connect, but I think you got a good result anyway because you have the strength, right? I think you pushed or you cut, and then you got to live, right? Because you had these stones. So that's why I said you can take this part with a grain of salt. Yours still worked perfectly fine. But at the same time, just realize white could have always lived again, right? And if white lives here, then these stones are in trouble because they're
Mm-hmm.
cut off, right? They're cut off from A and B, and so this could be an issue. Still, though, you got a good result, and you're following rules that sometimes I forget. I've played on stream and lost because of this, but the idea is that when you're in a crosscut, you want to help your weaker side. So once white got stronger, you got stronger. So this is really good for you. That's essentially what you should be doing. Now B was off the target. B is off the mark, and this is EYJ's problem. He is not focused on what he should be focused on, and in some sense, you're in a very similar boat, right? Because there's two things going on. Would you say this white group is weak?
Yes.
Would you say this white group is weak?
Yes.
So why wouldn't you want to focus on attacking these groups? On top of that, mind you, would you say that this black group is weak?
Very much.
Yeah. So this shows an importance, right? Like that. The thing guys, both of you should be focused on, is strengthening yourself and weakening this, right? So maybe a move like this would be nice, or this would be nice. But ideally, you have a weak group, so you want to make it stronger. And it's next to another weak group. So as this becomes stronger, this becomes weaker. Super important concept. There's no other place you should be thinking about. And both of you played over here, which was, it's just both off the mark. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds harsh, but it just seems like around this time, like you guys didn't know what you were supposed to be doing, and so you started just floating around. But
Right.
let's just see what happened. So this you're protecting your life and death corner. So this I understand, right? At this point, you do have to play here. Um, and you got to do what I wanted you to do a very long time ago, right? Which is to hit the head of these two stones, right? And then you got to crumple them in. So that was good. The only current problem, like I said, is now your focus should be on this group, and this group. Um, and even though you're building a nice wall here, it's already compromised, right? White already has all the territory here, so you
Mm.
building this wall is doing nothing, if that makes sense. The only thing that's doing is crumpling white in, which is nice, but it's not the important part of the game. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So at this point, you did create the hit the head and two head, setup, but once you played here, you don't want to push again because he already has his group fixed because of A. If this white stone wasn't here, then this would be a good move because you're setting up hitting the head of three stones, right? If he tanukis, you could play this, and this would be really painful for him. But because he has this white stone here, now even if you were to, let's say, hit the head, it doesn't matter, right? He's just gonna get good shape on his own anyway. So that's why this move was too much. You're just pushing from behind, which is usually bad. If white has no weakness and it doesn't involve life and death, you don't want to be behind in the race, right? So this is behind, and then this is really behind. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So at this point, this move feels off the mark, right? I know that you were trying to stop White from making like some type of Moyo out here, but White will never be able to make a Moyo out here because you have so much black strength, right? So this move to me looks really, it just looks a little silly. It's definitely off the mark. The only thing I could say is maybe you're trying to build some strength to attack this, but we would rather just do that with strengthening your group, right? Because you're weak. If
Yeah, I
White
don't
get
think that far in advance.
yeah, yeah. If White, let's say, gets a move like this, Yeah, look at how significantly weak your connections are, and look at how much stronger white has become, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is whoever gets the first move here is gonna be, the all star. But instead, white played this, which looks ridiculous to me. Did you feel happy when you played this? Because I would have. Like, I'd be like, what is? These are on the third line. I can't invade in here, right?
I'm too insular in my caveman thoughts to consider the value of my opponent's moves.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I just I just place stone and get point.
I see. Yeah, so at one point you'll start recognizing like that was a bad move, right? Like same with this. This is an awful move, right? Like I'm like this. Like if you'll start seeing these moves for what they are, right? This has very little value, and this has very little value. There's some value, but like White could have played this, and look at how much more it is, right? Or White could
Hmm.
have played this, and you can see it's just building more. This is flat as a pancake, right? Nobody likes flat. We want big. The Philippines term for big is dako, right? I always remember it because it's like duck, dako.
Akko.
Yeah, so we want dako. We don't want gamay. Gamay small.
Is is that tag along?
Bisaya.
Ah,
Tagalog is what they speak in a lot of the country, like Manila, the capital. But I live in the southern area. They speak Bisaya, or
okay.
also that you could call it Cebuan. But yeah, but yeah, this is flat as a pancake. So now you finally get the most important move, which is awesome, right? And so this is what we were talking about. How for the most of the game you're winning, right? Because from what I see, White's the one who's been making the majority of mistakes. You're missing the most important part of the game, which is keeping your groups, his weak groups weak and your weak group strong. So that's like a big importance that needs to be rectified. But you finally did get the first move, which made you much better position. This is really good. This is fine. This is fine. This is great, right? You're making good shape. This is really dumb. This is what we call a thank you move. Essentially, it just helped you fix and took away a liberty from him, right? So he had 4 liberties, and now he has 3 liberties and a cut. So this is what we call a thank you move. Try never to do this. It's gonna happen, but I don't think I saw you do one, so that's good. That was awful for him. Great on you. This is leaning, right? You're leaning on this, which is giving you more territory. You could argue this was a thank you move, but I think it's good because it creates 2 cutting points, so that's good. And then here's where things got a little messy. So if you played here, actually, you can kind of just strengthen yourself for free, right? If white tries to counterattack you, then you have all these cuts and kill everywhere, right? You can just kill this, make this, whatever. This is nice too. Um, so this would have been a really nice attachment here. If he submits, that's fine, right? Look at how strong you are, right? This is really nice. Nothing has been cut so far. Okay. Yeah, I mean, is that true? Have you avoided all cross cuts at any cost? I mean, that's not
But
true. You cut these apart. These got cut. There's cuts. So I'm talking to the chat, Aaron. If you didn't see that, the
right,
chat lit up.
not so many cuts as there might be if we weren't terrified of them at our level.
Yeah. But yeah, so this would have been a nice move to help fix because these stones just don't have a lot of liberties yet. And this looks like you'd just help him. So I think like this would be nice to try and set up some confusion and get stronger. But this move, is fairly basic. This move, I see where you're going with it. I don't really like it that much. If you played this, it still threatens these cuts, but I see that like maybe you didn't like this, right? Because that's painful.
Hmm.
That's painful, and so that's why I was really trying to figure out like why this felt bad, and it's because you're just lacking liberties, right? So you need a move here, and if you want to find a bigger brain version of that, this is really nice, I think. Um, and so now here is an important concept. This is something you can take away. Let's say if black played here, right? Do you believe that black will live with this group?
Yes.
Do you believe that this black group will live?
Yes.
So then you don't need to connect two living groups. Does that? I know it's a crazy concept, right? Because we always want to keep our groups connected. But the idea is that if you have two living groups, then they don't need to be connected. This move, when you connect, there's weaknesses here, right? Big
Hmm.
weaknesses. Big, big, big weaknesses. Once again, can white play this? Maybe it's not as good as it was, but it's still something, right? There's actually still lots of weaknesses here. Um, but maybe this is okay. But I just thought that this would have been much more secure. Because if white cuts you, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because if both groups live, then you don't have to worry about being connected. It's a very important concept that a lot of people mess up on. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So now we're getting pretty much to the end. So let's see. So white did end up coming in here, and that's because you can't block here, right? Because there's a double Atari,
Right.
and so that's why this move would have been superior. Because now if he plays this, there's no double Atari, right?
Hmm.
So that was the importance of me showing that. I forgot. So yeah, this was really, really, really painful, but you're still okay. So life is good. And when he played here, now he remembered, like, oh, this is a weak group. I should have played here a long time ago. And then your memory jolted. Hey, I should probably do something, right, to attack these two.
Yeah.
So that's good that you're attacking these two. But once again, all the way down to move 50 something. This should have been your thought from the start. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right. So now, pretty much, this is where we're at the end game, and this was where the game changed. So throughout the whole game, he made bigger mistakes than you did, and you were winning the game kind of comfortably, actually. Um, but once, and I'll just go through it really quickly. Once you played this move, it was a negative 40 move, and then the game swung, right? And that's where you said you were winning, right? I think you saw the computer's evaluation, and then you saw that you were losing, right? Is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about this really quickly. Um, if you play this, white can't make two eyes here, right? White can only make one eye. So this is one of the key points of this living shape. It's very important to see this. Now, when you poked here and he answered, that's fine. Now you still have the opportunity to play this. When he poked here, you still have the opportunity to play this. But once you played this, now white lives and he has four spaces. And this is a living shape. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we couldn't allow white to get this living shape. If white was to push through, we can connect and stay strong. And then essentially, as long as we keep A and B disconnected, then this group has to prove that it's alive. And that's not easy. That's not easy. Especially when you can play this and then play here, and this isn't even a real eye, it's a false eye. So he has zero eyes, essentially. So you needed to hit this key point, and once you missed it, that was the game over, because now that was a 40-point swing with white alive, and then I think he edged it out at the end. Right, he won the game.
That
Um,
makes sense.
yeah, so hitting the key points is important for life and death, right? And that's mainly it. If you just allow him to live, it's too painful. Um, any questions? Any concepts that you want me to like re go over or anything?
Um, I think that throughout my game, I one thing I feel is that whenever I have a wall, my immediate instinct is to extend, drop everything, and just make sure that I make the most out of the wall. But you'll notice in a few places I don't extend as far as I can, and
Mhm.
that's out of a fear that I'm going to get interrupted in the middle, like those
Ah, yes,
three
yeah.
spaces. The white stone will just end up right there, and that I think this opponent was especially earnest with that attack. You might see it here or there somewhere in this game. I'm wondering, like,
So,
I should definitely be less afraid of that,
yes,
right?
and yeah, let me explain why too. So one thing, I see what you're talking about, right? You made a wall here and then you extended it, right? And this is not the time to do this stuff, right? So I see your passion of extending your walls even when you don't have to, right? So I totally understand what you're saying. The second concept you said was you're afraid to extend too far because then you're worried he'll jump in, right? But let's look at this perfect example, right? You have a big wall, you already have your extension, and then he jumps in, right? What happens when he jumps in here?
I push him towards my thickness.
And is that good or bad?
It's good for me.
Right. The idea is that if he jumps into your big extensions when you have a big wall is, you get something to fight. And that should always feel good. I that's like my favorite part of the game, right? Is like attacking something that's weak. So in this case, I just want you to understand that if you make a big wall and extend, you don't want to be afraid of him jumping in. In fact, that's what you want him to do. If he jumps in, then you can take full advantage of pounding on him, right? Beating him up. You're already making some profit by just this one push, right? And then later on, if you seal him in or something, you can see that one, you can either kill him, or two, you'll end up with lots of influence. So, like, even if we do this here, right? This is the elephant eye attack or elephant jump. Once he pokes through, we always use the knight's move once somebody pokes our elephant eye. And then we just play very simple, right? This is simple. He pushes, you should get stronger. He tries to come out, you continue to block him. He tries to come out, you continue to block him. And now he can't do anything, right, to get it out. He's made no eyes. And more importantly, even if somehow he manages to live, you just got a bunch of power, which is going to affect the rest of the board. Now you have invasions, right? Now you can definitely invade and like attack this, right? Because you have power. You have friends that you can always run to. Let me try and show you an example of this. So let's say if you jumped here, right? Or here or here, whichever. No matter which way white attacks you, right? Let's say white attacks this. Once you're running up, you're running towards your friends. You're running towards your power. So you have no fear of playing a stone here. Does that make sense?
It does.
Now, of course, on this board, there's more important things to understand. There's a weak group here. There's a weak group here. But the idea is that when somebody jumps into your big expansions, you get to fight them, and that's usually at your advantage. So you have to learn how to make it your advantage. Like this move is going for the base, but this allows white to come out very quickly. And so now, if white lives here and comes out, then you didn't really gain too much. You just gained a little bit. So more focus should be on making sure white can't get out. That should be where your focus is.
Is that the same if he had a two space base instead of a one?
Same concept. If you had a two space base and you have strength on both sides, you can use this elephant's jump, which is an amazing technique, as I showed you. It doesn't allow white to leave, and it doesn't allow white to make any eyes. So it's a really, really cool shape. It's an amazing attack, right? Which is really fun. Other things you could do is like this is how I used to play before I learned this technique. So I'd play this and I would just seal him in, right? And that's kind of what I would do, right? As long as he was sealed in, even if he lives here, which he might not still, you still have actually some techniques you can play like this. If he blocks this way, you connect under. If he blocks this way, you connect under. So you have this nice, in a two space base, you have these nice moves here, as long as you're strong on both sides. But they're not the first thing you should do. The first thing you should do is seal on the outside. So, like I said, in my ignorance or weakness, I would play this a lot, and then just make sure he couldn't get out. And once again, we're making that influence, we're making that power that we'll be able to use for the rest of the board. Um, so does that address your fear of him jumping in? It's probably, I'm sure it'll take a lot of games to get it going, but
It does. Thank you.
yeah, I just want you to understand you should have confidence when they do this, right? This is, and in this game, you showed me you had confidence by playing the right move. Um, but yeah, the second concept you have to learn is now you need to surround him from the outside. Because if we play on the inside, then he's going to just fly. He's going to be able to get out really fast. And if he lives here, then he's already done a good job of reducing what potential you had here. So that is it. Very quickly, I always just recap the most important stuff. So, some of the most important things. This is one of the most basic and fundamental concepts of being ahead in the running race, right? And in the proverb, hitting the head of two stones helps you with that concept a lot, right? So in this case, white significantly or desperately needed to play here, but instead played away, which gave you a huge bonus, right? If you got this. Now you played this, which was a little slow, but it's still, you're still ahead in the running race, which effectively was good for you. Very important concept. When you have large walls, you can move a little further away. In this case, I didn't. You were mentioning K16, but I don't like this. It's fine, but I don't like it because it's off topic. Right now, the topic was that you got to split him, which was, this is probably one of the reasons you were winning the game for so long, was because he played a bad move like this, which allowed you to split him. And so now he has this weak group. So the idea is you want to keep pressure on this group. And this was considered the best move by the computer. Push him from behind. So if white has no weakness, you should never push from behind. If white had a weakness, right, we mentioned that, like, if white was weak here, then it would be very good to push here, right? Because it sets up an attack here. But because white has no weakness, this is actually an extremely bad move. And even before this, which I didn't write in the comments apparently, was the understanding of you have a weak group next to a weak group, so you need the first move here to get the advantage. This is so important. Like I said, if white just played here now, you'd be in a world of hurt, right? I don't even know, like, I don't know the best move here. Would you connect like this? Because then white can surround you on the outside. Would you run away? Because now white can definitely, like, split you apart, right? White can, yeah, white can play something like this. And so this is really painful because if white lives here, then and kills you, he just fixed all his problems. So just one move would have changed the game. It would have been that, that negative 40-point swing you got earlier. So that's it. I mean, I've harped on everything enough. I think you get the concept.
Yeah, and thank you.
All right, Aaron. We will definitely play another time. I hope that you continue taking lessons because I definitely have plenty I can help you out with.
Of course. I'll send you the challenge for that correspondence game.
Yeah, and I know. Okay, that sounds great. And I know you said you're busy this evening. Obviously, it's October, Halloween. Actually, I don't even know who's going to come to my class, but just remember on Mondays, I still do that class every time at 8 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
And it's really good. Like this week, we're talking about Chapter 2 in the Attack and Defense book, which is the book that got me to 3K. Like, I was.
Is that 8 p.m. Or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern?
Eastern, yeah, so it's 5 o'clock Pacific. I know you're in the Pacific.
Okay. All right.